Punch the LGBT community right in the AIDS.
Oh my God. What's up, guys? Jared here. So the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Chappelle has a new special on Netflix. I have heard off of headlines and retweeted Twitters that he's been quote-unquote canceled, even though he's uncancelable and doesn't care, so he's not really vulnerable. But I don't know exactly why he's been canceled, so we're going to find out together. So watch as I react to Dave Chappelle, the comedian, the philosopher, the fearless. Let's get started. When it comes to childhood idols, when it comes to childhood heroes that really made such a significant impact on my development, on the development of my community in terms of the way that different racial groups interacted, nothing was more impactful than Chappelle's show. It was the one thing that my kind of de facto segregated school, everyone loved. It was the one thing we could all agree on and all talk about. So I'll always be excited when he's got something new.
I need you guys to know something. This is gonna be my last special for a minute. It's all good. It's all good. Listen to me. I did it in Detroit for that reason. Because I talk so much shit about Detroit, I think I might as well do the last special here.
He's looking fucking slick.
First of all,
that
before I
suit.
start, I want to say, I don't want you to worry about me. I'm vaccinated. I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That's probably the most niggerish decision I've made in a long time. I walk in the doctor like, give me the third best option. I'll have what the homeless people are having. Okay, first of all, when the doctor told me I had corona, I was surprised how it made me feel.
Okay. I just have to stop it for a second. He's talking about coronavirus. I can just feel in the audience right now, there is this wave of release, of relaxation. There's something cathartic about, okay, now finally someone we trust to say something true, someone we trust to say something in good faith, something that, or someone that we expect or we believe will say something that is on all of our minds, but we just haven't really found the person with the courage to be able to talk about coronavirus in a funny way. And for some reason, it's really almost beyond language to describe, but Dave Chappelle, he just has this unique place in the culture where people are like, all right, I'm ready to hear coronavirus humor, but I only want to hear it from him. I just can't imagine other comedians making jokes about Johnson & Johnson vaccine only being for poor people, except Dave Chappelle. It's not even a matter of his status or his legacy. I mean, I'm sure that's actually quite relevant, but it also just has to do with the way that he establishes a tone and the way that he establishes rapport with his audience. It's something that's unparalleled, it's not reproducible. It's something that's so unique to this man, and that's why one of the reasons I think it's so important to follow him and to follow his work. It's really, okay.
I hadn't felt that dirty in a long time. Last time I can remember feeling dirty like that, man, I must have been a little boy. I was being molested by a preacher.
Whoa, coming out
Don't
hard.
feel bad for me. I liked it.
Oh.
I used to get a kick out of coming in that fella's face. Well, he asked me to do it.
Man, I tell you, the more people get offended by Dave Chappelle, just eggs him on, man. It just makes him want to be even more inflammatory. And, you know, it's the age-old thing where the more taboo a subject is made, the more rigidity surrounds it, and the more catharsis, the more release happens once somebody actually talks about it. So the more people get upset, the more people get offended by these kind of jokes, the more opportunity there is for Dave to break that tension, to break that spiral of silence, and to make us all laugh. Fucking bravo, Dave. All right, I'm not even 10 minutes in yet.
And I hate to say this, videos, sadly, of black people beating up Asians for no reason. Illegal attacks were unprovoked. I couldn't believe it.
God, he is playing the hits in terms of controversial issues.
See how sick you're gonna get. And it turns out, and this is true, I didn't get sick at all. I kept watching these videos, black people beating up Asian people, being so cruel. And the whole time I watched those videos, I couldn't help but feel like when I saw these brothers beating these Asians up, it's probably what's happening inside of my body.
Oh man, yeah. Only Dave even talks about the anti-Asian sentiment within the black community. It's something that most media won't even discuss.
Of UFOs.
I knew that was coming.
Space Jews. It's gonna get worse than that. It's gonna get way worse than that. This is my last special because I have an objective tonight. I came here tonight because this body of work on Netflix I'm going to complete. I'd like to start addressing the LGBTQ community directly.
Oh boy, these claps, I don't even know what they indicate, but let's see what he says.
I come here tonight in peace, and I hope to negotiate the release of DaBaby.
God, I feel old. I don't even know who DaBaby is. I've heard the name, but...
Sad story. Said some wild stuff about the LGBT community during a concert. Pushed the button, didn't he? He pushed the button, punched the LGBT community right in the AIDS.
Oh my God.
Can't do that. Can't do that. Community doesn't know DaBaby's history. He once shot a nigga and killed him in North Carolina. Nothing bad happened to his career.
God.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Only Dave can juxtapose two very simple points of saying something bad about a community and killing somebody. And I think, although anyone can make that point, and it's a point that's often made, people very often juxtapose simple points where like, oh, okay, well, these societies only care about censoring sex but not violence. But I really think that there's just something about Dave, and I think it has something to do with his performance, his tone, his comedic ability, that really makes people consider these things critically and not dismiss them immediately like they otherwise would. And I think laughter has a lot to do with disarming that barrier that would prevent people normally from considering these ideas with any sincerity. And so this is one of the reasons why I really do believe that comedians are obscene philosophers in a way.
And kill a nigga. You better not hurt a gay person's feelings.
Oh boy.
Is it possible that a gay person can be racist?
Of course gay people can be racist. The fact that Dave Chappelle has to come on stage and set the record straight about this is another indication of how sad the state of our discourse is. But anyway, let's keep going.
Do you really think so? Of course it's possible. Look at Mike Pence. He's not Pride Parade gay either. He's sad gay. Feel bad for him. One of them gays that prays about, please Jesus, make these buttholes ugly to me. I want to keep on tasting these dicks. I am jealous of gay people. We blacks, we look at the gay community and we go, damn it, look how well that movement is going. Look how well you are doing. And we've been trapped in this predicament for hundreds of years. How are you making that kind of progress? I can't help but feel like if slaves had baby oil and booty shorts, we might have been free 100 years sooner, you know what I mean? I want everybody to get up on them floats. Get your bodies good and shiny. I don't hate gay people at all. Respect the shit out of you. Well, not all of it. I'm not that fond of these newer gays. Too sensitive, too brittle. I miss them old school gays, nigga. Them Stonewall niggas, the ones that I respect. Old school glory hole. If Martin Luther King was like, these new gays don't even know what the glory hole is. I respect that shit. There's a lot of courage on both sides of that hole, nigga. I'm going all the way.
Sure is.
Almost got in a fight. It's complicated. A woman came to our table. The bitch came over. No mask. All H words. Hi, how are you? Now I looked over at the table that she came from. The men at the table were filming it. This happens when famous people will come over and try to radio cage so that their buddies can film it. A video of you embarrassing yourself. And these dumb motherfuckers thought that it was my first rodeo. I ran right over there. I said, you a bitch ass nigga for doing this to me. And the dude was shocked that I said it. He said, and when he did like this, I realized like, this fella's gay. I call everybody a bitch ass nigga. That's not the right thing to do if they're gay. Now I was in trouble. Not only that, the motherfucker was huge. He must have been 6'5", a big white corn-fed Texas homosexualist nigga. Ready to fight? I wasn't scared. How could I be scared? The shirt was tied up in a knot like this. Let's go, nigga, let's go. And then, right when you think we would fight, picked up his phone and called the police. And this is a major issue I have with that community. Gay people are minorities until they need to be white again. A black gay person would have never done that to me.
Okay, I just want to pause for a second. This is another benefit of being a comedian. And another one of the reasons that I think being a comedian is, in some ways, when you're in a very privileged position in terms of fame and opportunity and breadth of audience that Dave Chappelle has, is that you can make social points like this and just have a larger audience for it. It's very rare that you find yourself in a situation, other than universities, which cater to a very specific kind of person, or people that watch Debate Bros online, where you can have an audience of people who are willing to have their beliefs challenged, or to have commentary on political issues that they wouldn't normally like to listen to, and it's given to them and they accept it and they actually relish it. And that's something that's so powerful for a comedian, because a lot of these people are not people that watch political content on the internet. They don't watch the news, or if they do watch the news, it's usually very narrow, usually just something within their tribe. They don't really have, or they don't really seek out a large variety of opinions. But I really think Dave is doing important work here and really bringing, I don't know, in a way I think these Netflix specials, maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but I just love Dave so much, so humor me. I really feel like it's almost a milestone in which he is establishing what can and cannot be talked about, because he is the trailblazer. He is the one who will bring up social issues in a context that is palatable to a wide audience, people who just like comedy, and specifically people who like his comedy. You know, he's got decades of legacy for adults and people my age. So I just can't help but think it's not only entertaining, but it's valuable work. Anyway, keep going.
This happens far too often. Another time, a lesbian woman trying to sell a story about me. Thank goodness TMZ could see right through that story. This woman claimed that I beat her up in a nightclub because she was a lesbian. Bitch, I didn't even know you was a woman. Thank God TMZ didn't believe it, because I did beat the shit out of her, I'm not gonna lie. And all of a sudden, this lesbian fella stepped between us. I said softly, sweetly, like a pimp might say, bitch, I'm about to slap the shit out of you. She dropped that foot back, shoulders were angled correctly. I said, oh no, this bitch boxes for real. I had no choice. I had to go to work. You should have seen me go, nigga. I tenderized their titties like chicken fingers. I whooped the toxic masculinity out of that bitch.
All right, I gotta stop again. I can't help but say that a situation like this, where a straight black man is beating up a lesbian, of course, in 99 times out of 100, people are going to immediately assume the worst. And again, like, Dave Chappelle just has this rapport with his audience and his rapport with America. He has such a strong cult of personality that people are willing to, I guess, kind of suspend their judgment for a sec and understand that nuance of, yes, just because you have been systemically oppressed in our society does not mean you're not above being a shitty person. And I think that's such an important message that people often forget, and people often have this binary thinking about oppressed versus oppressor, and how if you're oppressed, therefore you can do no wrong. And I just think by dramatizing it like this, and with his unique position in the culture, it's not only hilarious, but it's also, I don't know, like socially productive, I want to say. Maybe I don't know, maybe it's too much. Maybe I'm going too far. Anyway.
And as soon as I open my car door, a voice go, David Chappelle. Sounds to me like you hate women. It's art. We're free to interpret this art, but I can tell you, as the maker of this art, I don't believe that I feel that way. She said, well, I think. And I said, shut up, bitch. Did I follow you to your car and do my act? She said, what? I said, keep it in the comment section. This is real life. Ta-ta. What could I be saying that would make these bitches think I hate them?
Oh, he's so good.
Couldn't figure it out. Dictionary definition of a feminist. Just to make sure. And do you know, sir, what the dictionary definition of a feminist is? Human being. Not a woman. A human being that believes in equal rights. By that definition, I would consider myself a feminist. Didn't even know that at the time. All these years, I thought it meant frumpy dyke. Les was always talking
didn't like Bolsonaro say that same joke, and of course it was this huge controversy, and now Dave Chappelle says it. And again, it's just the right context, the right delivery, and the right personality that communicates it in good faith. At least I think so.
I know, look, listen, I support the feminist movement. There's a problem in the feminist movement, isn't there? From its inception, there's been a racial component. Read your history books. They didn't want to conflate women's rights and slavery. That's right. And listen, I supported the Me Too movement. But the whole time, I thought the way they handled that was stupid. It was white. It was like, they were doing shit like, let's go to the Golden Globe, wear black dresses. You think Martin Luther King's gonna be like, everybody keep riding the bus, but wear matching outfits? You gotta get off the bus and walk. And then I said something about it, and all these women actresses mad for me. I said, man, fuck y'all too. You can't. I ain't jerking off to none of your pictures again. They were like, who is he to tell us anything? I'll tell you exactly who I am. I'm the one that got off the bus and left $50 million on the bus and walked.
Shit.
I agreed with these women. Didn't agree with what they were doing about.
This is another thing that's great about Dave Chappelle. I mean, he talked about him leaving money on the bus because he didn't agree with the way his direction of comedy was going under the leadership of Comedy Central, and how all of these other actresses, in particular he's talking about women here, are unwilling to sacrifice potentially their class position to make any real difference. And although he isn't saying it, or at least he hasn't said it yet, he's talking about how all of these movements and all this virtue signaling from rich white celebrities is class agnostic for a reason, because they don't want to look like hypocrites, they don't want to give up their wealth, and ultimately they want to seem virtuous without changing anything.
Now listen, women get mad at me, baby get mad at me, lesbians get mad at me, transgenders, these niggas want me dead. He came up to me in the street the other day, he said, they after you. One day or many days?
Oh man.
Before I can say anything about that community, I hope you all feel the same way. I am not indifferent to the suffering of someone else. New laws. North Carolina passed a law when a person that was used the restroom corresponds with the gender they were assigned in their birth certificate. No American would have to present a birth certificate, take a shit at Walmart in Greensboro with a baby shot and killed a motherfucker. I'm not indifferent to people suffering, though it's hard to be everybody. We blacks just got our first big holiday. Juneteenth is a strange holiday. I learned this past Juneteenth there was a black man during slavery who got granted his freedom. And this is where the story gets crazy. This nigga bought some slaves. How can a person who went through slavery perpetrate the same evil on a person? It's mind-blowing. Shockingly, they're making a movie about it. It's called Space Jews.
Whoa.
Space Jews.
Dude, no one's safe from Chappelle, man. Fuck yeah.
I didn't know these dudes, but I know they was gay. They had a dick in their mouth. They wouldn't look any gayer than they did just Remember in the 80s when gay people look surprised all the time? Close your mouth, nigga. What's surprising?
No, it looks just like Chris Tucker in The Fifth Element.
She was very gracious. She said, thank you so much, and shook hands. As she would shake my hand, face turned mean. She said, do you mind not punching down on my people? Ooh, I don't like that.
This whole notion of punching up and punching down is something I've always disagreed with for another number of reasons. One, I believe that, in the chicken and egg scenario, what you find funny it precedes your moral compass. So if you think that something is morally wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't laugh at it. For example, do I think that it's correct to humiliate fat people, or that it's morally correct to humiliate fat people? Of course not. But do I find Chris Farley movies funny? Of course I do. Is Fatty Arbuckle comedy still funny? Of course it is. Aristotle, I think, had one of the first theories of comedy, and I believe it was called superiority theory. And I believe the entire premise of that is more or less punching down as the most obvious form of comedy. And I find that it's so disingenuous and ultimately very arrogant to think that as human beings we have evolved past that to where making fun of those who are less fortunate than us is somehow not funny. It may be immoral, it may be unethical, but that doesn't mean it's not funny as much as we may desire it to be true. Anyway.
What you mean, bitch? She said, my people have struggled for decades, honey. Decades! And I looked at them gay black dudes like, anything you niggas need to tell this bitch? Clever. I know they've never seen me for themselves. Just repeat. They've heard. Any of you who've ever watched me know that I've never had a problem with transgender people. Clearly, my problem has always been white people.
I just want to pause for a second to talk about his emphasis on if you listen to what I say, because I think that it is almost I'm trying to use the right word here. There is a pathology that's very popular these days in which people not only feel that it is morally necessary to take the least charitable interpretation of what somebody says, but it's almost an impulse. It's like it's a reaction. It's like a reflex. And I think that with Dave Chappelle, I mean, he's been in the public eye for so long. His charitable efforts have been known worldwide. I think that if you really pay attention to what he says and follow his actions, his character is so evident. The strength of his character is so evident. And I feel that it's a little bit paranoid to assume the worst of his jokes about trans people or anybody. I mean, look, I'm a Jew. His space Jews jokes are, obviously very critical of some Jewish, priorities in the Jewish community, but I know that it's for comedy, and I know that ultimately he's making an important point, that we shouldn't absolve Israel of criticism, just like we shouldn't absolve trans people from criticism, because at the end of the day, whether your people have experienced the Holocaust in the last 100 years, or your people have been oppressed for decades or centuries, ultimately what we're all fighting for is the recognition of humanity. And part of that humanity is the potential to be horrible, because that is something that is essentially human. And it's only humane to point that out, is all I'm saying.
I have been arguing with a woman my entire career. Just when I thought I had you guys on the ropes, changed all the rules. I'm a girl now, nigger. You must treat me as such. Call me a girl, nigger. If you listen to what I'm saying, I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about us. They don't listen. Cancel J.K. Rowling, my God. Because she said in an interview, not exactly what she said, but factually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what the fuck that was. But I know that trans will make up words to win arguments.
I just want to touch on something really quick about Dave Chappelle mentioning J.K. Rowling. It is so interesting to think, and this goes more to what I was saying about taking the most uncharitable interpretation of what somebody says, because J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter works, the entire body of works, if you look at them thematically, they're all about not judging people based on their essential biological qualities. Whether because it was Hermione, or the Slytherin followers of Voldemort, the Death Eaters. They were all about genetic purity. Harry's aunt in the beginning of the third movie would always talk about how Harry was such a disappointment to the family because of his essential genetic qualities. She says something like, if the bitch is a spoiled egg, then the pup is going to be a spoiled egg. And the entire essence of the book series is proving that wrong, is about non-essentialism, is about that the idea that people can elevate themselves above their genetics or predetermined social state. And the idea that now she's been canceled for being too essentialist about her views on gender is wild, because I also think that a fair number of the people that canceled her are also the people who were very passionate Harry Potter fans who, in a sense, were brought up with these values that J.K. Rowling instilled in them, that you ought not judge somebody based on their essential genetic or class or biological or historical contexts, that people have the ability to create themselves. And the fact that now she's being canceled for the opposite sentiment is crazy to me.
As we've established, I am a feminist. I agree, man. Gender is a fact. Look at it like this. Caitlyn Jenner, a wonderful person, was voted Woman of the Year. Her first year as a woman. Ain't that something? Beat every bitch in Detroit better than all of you. Never even had a period. Ain't that something? Oh, I'd be mad as shit if I was a woman. If I was in the BET Awards, like in the winner for Nigger of the Year, Eminem, my man. Gender is a fact.
Okay, so I guess this is why he's been canceled, because he says gender is a fact. I mean, it's interesting that he didn't distinguish between sex and gender, because I think most people, and, you know, the gender trouble thesis is basically, in an oversimplified way, that gender is in the mind and sex is in the body. But again, like, Judith Butler's idea is just that. I mean, it is an assertion. It is an ideological construct. So is the notion that someone is born in the right body. I mean, there's no iterative scientific process that has, you know, proved that notion. It's just a frame of mind to which one can understand these people who don't feel themselves when considered to be a male. And I'm very sympathetic to that, and I think Dave Chappelle is too. And in general, I think that we should be very approving of anybody who needs to change the way that they dress, or, you know, even have surgery, or change the way that they consider themselves in order to be happy and in order to be well. I mean, I'm somebody who's suffered from mental illness before, and I would never want somebody limiting my ability to feel better, to feel myself, to feel how I need to feel in order to make it through the day, to be my best self. And ultimately, I don't think that's what Dave Chappelle is trying to say. I don't think he's trying to say that I am casting doubt on your way of living or your integrity as a human being. I think he's simply saying that the way that I interpret your life choices is different than the way you interpret them. The way that I interpret your way of defining yourself is different. And I don't know, it's something I have to think a little bit harder about, but I'm sympathetic to where Dave Chappelle is coming from. And ultimately, what is important is that we continue to allow people almost infinite flexibility to find what will make them happy and what will make them function in society.
That is a fact. I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I'm just saying those pussies that they got. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean? Tastes like pussy, but that's not quite what it is it? It's not blood, that's juice.
Oh.
Oh, buddy, I'm in trouble now.
I guess he is.
Before I go, I want to share this story with you because it's important. They're one of the coolest people I ever met. A transgender woman, lived in San Francisco. Daphne Gorman was her name. But this woman had only done stand-up comedy 8 times in her life. And now she's about to open a show for what many call the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. He is. No doubt. No doubt.
And a guy in the back of the room stood up, and the guy screamed out. And he said, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" And she didn't even look all the way back. He said, "Sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors." Just like that. Boy, when she said that shit, it blew the roof off the place. Cut through all the tension with that one joke.
That's what he said. He said it himself. That joke that she said cut the tension. This is one of the most powerful elements of comedy. And one of the ways that comedy can tell truth in ways that other social situations may not allow it, because laughter can cut tension and allow for new ideas to enter the social realm where otherwise there are usually very solid, strong walls.
And after that, she could do no wrong. And then the show became something cooler than a show. It became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman. And at the end of the show, I go, Daphne, I said, well, that was fun. I go, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. The whole crowd laughed, except for Daphne. Now she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. And she said, I don't need you to understand me. I just need you to believe that I'm having a human experience. I said, I believe you, bitch. Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. No, I believe you because it takes one to know one.
I don't know, man. It's powerful. This is powerful stuff.
When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me. Apparently, they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck, because Twitter's not a real place.
Sure as fuck ain't. Fuck Twitter. Dumbass bullshit.
And the hardest thing for a person to do is go against their tribe. But Daphne did that for me.
Oh, so
she
true.
wrote a tweet that was very beautiful. When she said she said punching down on someone requires you to think less of them. And I know him. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft.
Oh, so true. On both points, going against your tribe, something requires so much courage. And Dave is a master.
And when she did that, trans community dragged that bitch all over Twitter.
Ugh.
For days, they was going in on her, and she was holding her own because she's funny. 6 days after that wonderful night I described to you, my friend Daphne killed herself.
Oh my God. Jesus fucking
It's a
Christ.
true story. My heart was broken.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't the jokes. I don't know if it was them dragging her. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I bet dragging her didn't help.
Sure as hell didn't.
I was very angry at them. What I did is I got in touch with the family and started a trust fund for her daughter.
Good for fucking Dave. That's another thing that other celebrities don't do. They don't fucking dish out money.
And I don't know what the trans community did for her, and I don't care because I feel like she wasn't their tribe. She was mine, to me, and her soul. When she turns 21, I'm going to give her this money myself. By then, I'll be ready to have the conversation that I'm not ready to have today. But I'll tell that little girl, young lady, I knew your father. And he was a wonderful woman. Empathy is not gay. Empathy is not black. Empathy is bisexual. It must go both ways. Kevin Hart dreamt his entire life of hosting the Oscars. He finally got the job. They just took it. It didn't kill him, but I'm sure it broke old Clifford's heart. LGBTQ, LMNOPQIZ, it is over. I am not telling another joke until we are both sure that we are laughing together. All I ask from your community, with all humility, will you please stop punching down on my people?
Gosh. All right. It's over. God, I really feel like I just went through some kind of I feel like I was just listening to a preacher during those last couple of minutes. I mean, this is so good. I mean, he touched on pretty much every hot political topic in a novel, unique way that is specific to his voice. It was funny throughout. He didn't compromise his thoughts. He gave a very humanitarian message about empathy being something that transcends how you identify, what your sexual orientation is, what color your skin is. And he told a really powerful story at the end, sprinkled through with jokes, but man, he knows how to work a room. And sometimes the best comedians and even the best philosophers, it's all about how do you connect with people. And Dave is a master at work in a room, on establishing a tone, on establishing a mental connection between him and his audience. I mean, I was not in that room, but I am feeling the energy of that audience. I'm feeling kind of this, I don't know, I almost, to be obscene about it, I feel a little bit high, because I feel like I really just went through an emotional, intellectual experience with the people in that audience, and perhaps with the other people watching Netflix at home. So, gosh, this was great. I am not at all disappointed. I think Dave Chappelle really, I think his body of work in Netflix is akin to his body of work at Comedy Central. And that's saying a lot, because Chappelle's show, at least to me, was a legacy that'll last forever. And I think he has outdone himself in a very different time. Back in the early 2000s when Chappelle's show came out, he was definitely pushing buttons and revealing things about culture and specifically racial dynamics that no one else was willing to talk about. And he did it in a novel way that I think was really productive in more stratified parts of society, specifically racially stratified parts of society. And I think he's doing the same thing right now. And I think he's doing it not only within racial areas of society with racial tensions, but also the divide between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, the divide between people who consider themselves ardent allies of LGBTQ people and people who are more critical of some of their efforts. I think this is important, really good work. Obviously, the most important thing is that it's funny, but only a master can really generate such reflection and such just really get his audience to think critically and to feel emotional at a comedy show, and to really just sit. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm a little bit, as I said, I'm a little bit stoned just from the impact of Dave's ending. Thank you, Dave Chappelle. I really appreciate you as a comedian, but also just you as a person, you as a moral compass and an intellectual compass for people that don't read philosophical papers, for people not in the academy, for just regular people who like to laugh and who have questions about how our society works and where our society is headed. I think the work that you do and the perspective that you impart is priceless. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I've got some cool interviews coming up. I'm going to be talking about South Park. I'm going to be interviewing some Mormon brothers or Church of Latter-day Saint brothers about the first time they saw the infamous Mormons episode of South Park. I have a friend that I teased a couple episodes ago in Hollywood who was canceled. His manager dropped him, his agent dropped him, everything. He hasn't worked in Hollywood for years since he was canceled. I'm going to be interviewing him about his experiences, and I've got some other fun stuff. I'm doing, with Austin from Show Me the Meaning, we're going to be doing the same thing I did with Ryan, ranking our favorite actors. So, got a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to doing, and I hope you guys will join me. So, subscribe for more content, and thank you everybody for joining me on this new journey. And as always, peace.